If a book can change the way you see the world, this is where you'll find it. I'm Karo Chen. Let's explore together the books that truly shape our destinies. The book we're diving into today is The Almanack of Naval Ravikant. I know, you've probably heard this title a bunch of times already. But don't be too quick to file it under self-help or success books. This one's different. It's not about empty slogans. There's real substance in here. Let's start with the main character of this book, Naval Ravikant. He's a really interesting guy, one of Silicon Valley's top angel investors. He's backed world-changing companies like Twitter and Uber. But more than that, he's a doer, a philosopher who proves his ideas through business. He's not the secretive type of billionaire who hides behind closed doors. Instead, he loves posting his thoughts on Twitter, talking about how to make money and how to live without anxiety. Later, a guy named Eric Jorgensen gathered 10 years of Naval's tweets, interviews, and blog posts and turned them into this book. So when you open it, you'll see plain, simple language. But every line cuts deep. There's no fluff, just hard-earned truth. Insights forged from mistakes, big wins, and real experience. Some people might say, isn't this just a collection of quotes? Is it really worth reading closely? Actually, it is. Most books about wealth either teach you stock tricks or career hacks, all short-term stuff. And books about happiness? They're usually just emotional pep talks with no real application. But Naval is different. He weaves these two topics together like a double helix. He says wealth is the tool for achieving freedom in the physical world, and happiness is the goal for achieving freedom in the mind. You can't have one without the other. When we read this book, we're not learning how Naval made his fortune. We're learning how he thinks. For example, he says wealth isn't money. It's assets that earn for you after taxes. That one line breaks the illusion of trading time for money. He says happiness isn't pleasure. It's peace of mind. That hits right at the pain point of people who get rich but still feel empty. These ideas didn't come out of thin air. Naval immigrated from India to the US when he was 9. His family was so poor that his father worked in a hardware store. He got himself into an Ivy League school. He's failed at startups, succeeded as an investor, and learned through scars. So everything in this book is truth spoken by someone who's done it, not theory made up by someone who hasn't. And to truly hold on to the value of this book, we need to understand its core logic. It's never about choosing between wealth and happiness. It's about using reason to earn enough confidence, and then using wisdom to protect your peace. So next, let's follow Naval's path. Let's start by breaking down the wealth side of the equation and see how ordinary people can move from selling time to building assets. Let's start by breaking down one key idea. When you open the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, you'll notice something interesting about its structure. Eric Jorgensen, the author, was basically compiling 10 years of Naval's random thoughts, tweets, interviews, and blogs. Yet he deliberately divided them into two parts, wealth and happiness. And not just that, he firmly placed wealth before happiness. That order wasn't random. It reflects Naval's core logic. In one interview, Naval said something that perfectly explains this choice. You have to achieve freedom from survival before you can pursue freedom of the mind. That line sounds simple, but it hits right at the heart of a common misconception about wealth and happiness. We usually see two extremes around us. Some people make money their whole purpose in life, staying up late, working overtime, burning themselves out, always saying, once I make enough money, I'll finally be happy. But when their bank account hits that number, they just end up more anxious. Others go the opposite way. They avoid talking about money at all, thinking it's vulgar, and chase only spiritual fulfillment. But when real-life problems hit, rent due, medical bills, family needs, their so-called happiness collapses instantly. Naval's logic sits right between those two extremes. Wealth is the tool, happiness is the goal. They're not an either-or choice. They're like two strands of DNA, tightly intertwined and inseparable. The tool must serve the goal, otherwise it becomes a cage. And the goal must be supported by the tool, otherwise it's just a castle in the air. He talks about wealth first because, for most people, money is the biggest barrier to happiness. If you're worried about tomorrow's meal, it's hard to care about inner peace. But he follows it with happiness because chasing money alone leads to another trap. The more you earn, the more your desires grow, and the further you drift from true happiness. So to move forward, we need to break two common misconceptions, what Naval calls the counterintuitive starting points. The first one, confusing wealth with money. Naval says, money is a social IOU, but wealth is an asset that keeps generating value. Let's unpack that. When you work a job and get paid every month, that paycheck is money. It's an IOU from society, proof that you've created value this month. You can trade it for other people's value, food, clothes, housing. But that paycheck isn't wealth because the moment you stop working, it stops too. It doesn't make more money on its own. So what counts as wealth? Say someone opens a breakfast shop. At first, they mix the dough, make porridge, and collect payments, all labor for money. But later they standardize the process, train staff, and the shop runs smoothly even when they're not there, earning a few thousand yuan a day. That self-running business? That's wealth. Or take another example. Someone who loves coding writes a simple app that helps small shop owners track their sales. They put it online for sale, and even while they're sleeping, people are downloading and paying for it. That app is also wealth. And when Naval invests in companies like Twitter or Uber, he's really investing in wealth too. These companies create products that keep adding value for millions of people, so their worth keeps growing. Owning their stock means owning a share of that growing value, real wealth. Once you understand this distinction, you'll see why some people stay poor even when they work nonstop, because they're trading time for money instead of building wealth. Naval's whole point about wealth is showing ordinary people how to escape that trap, how to build assets that make money even when you don't. The second misconception is mixing up happiness with pleasure. Naval's distinction is razor sharp. Pleasure is short-term stimulation, while happiness is long-term peace. We've all felt it. You laugh like crazy scrolling through short videos, but the moment you close the app, you feel empty. You buy that bag you've wanted for months. You're thrilled for 2 days, then it fades. Even a promotion or raise, that excitement rarely lasts a week. That's pleasure. It depends on outside triggers. Once the trigger's gone, so is the feeling. Happiness, though, is different. It's the state where no matter what happens outside, your mind stays steady inside. Naval once shared a personal story. When he first started a company, it was on the verge of collapse. He was buried in debt, and debt collectors were knocking on his door every day. Most people would have broken down. But one morning, he got up, made himself a cup of coffee, and sat by the window in the sunlight. And he thought, even if the company fails, I can start again. Right now, I can drink coffee and feel the sun. That's enough. That wasn't self-comfort. That was the essence of happiness. It doesn't depend on what you have. It depends on whether you can accept the present moment. Another difference between pleasure and happiness is this. Pleasure is addition. It's always, if I just get a little more, I'll be happier. But happiness is subtraction. It's if I let go of something, I'll feel more at peace. Naval says most people spend their whole lives chasing pleasure, like running after their own shadow, and they never catch it. But happiness is when you stand still, and the shadow naturally follows you. By now, you should get what Naval's double helix logic really means. Wealth helps you remove the anxiety of not having enough money, so you have the confidence to pursue happiness. Happiness helps you let go of endless desire, so you don't lose yourself after you make money. Without one or the other, your life easily goes off track. Some people might ask, why not chase happiness first and then build wealth? Naval's answer is very down to earth. Talking about happiness on an empty stomach is like building a house without a foundation. The first gust of wind will knock it down. He himself immigrated to the US from India at age 9. His family was so poor they lived in a basement. His father worked in a hardware store, and his mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Back then, he couldn't care less about inner peace. All he could think about was how not to go hungry, how to help his family live a better life. It wasn't until he built wealth through startups and investing that he finally had the freedom to think about what happiness really means. And the opposite is also true. If you only chase wealth but ignore happiness, things fall apart even faster. Naval has seen too many Silicon Valley billionaires, worth tens of billions, who can't sleep, who drink too much, whose families fall apart. The more money they make, the more terrified they are of losing it. They start competing endlessly. Someone buys a private jet, they need a bigger one. Someone invests in a unicorn, they need to invest in something even riskier. In the end, money becomes a chain that strangles them. That's the price of not understanding the double helix, mistaking the tool for the goal, and eventually getting consumed by it. So when we deep dive into this book, the first step is to carve this logic into our minds. When Naval talks about wealth, he's not teaching you how to make quick money. He's teaching you how to earn enough to support your happiness. When he talks about happiness, he's not telling you to escape reality. He's showing you how to stay grounded even when you already have wealth. Once you get this core logic, everything else becomes much clearer. Next, let's focus on the first part of the double helix: wealth. Naval's genius is that he turned making big money from something based on luck into something based on a repeatable logic. Ordinary people don't need to win the lottery or meet some powerful mentor. If you follow a few key steps, you can break out of the trap of trading time for money. So let's follow his train of thought, step by step, to see how ordinary people can build their own core strengths, add leverage to their skills, and eventually own assets that make money automatically. After understanding the double helix relationship between wealth and happiness, let's focus on the first part: wealth. When most people talk about making big money, their first reaction is, you need luck or connections. But Naval completely overturns that idea in his book. Real wealth doesn't come from luck. It comes from a repeatable, logical system. The key question is this: how can an ordinary person escape the endless cycle of trading time for money and move on to the track of earning through value? That's something we've got to break down step by step. Step 1. You've got to understand how wealth is actually created. Otherwise, no matter how hard you work, you're just spinning your wheels. Naval has a line that really hits deep. Working hard and making money aren't necessarily connected. What matters is what you do, who you do it with, and when you do it. That line breaks the old belief we were all taught, that hard work automatically brings success. Think about a restaurant server. They're busy from dawn to night, carrying plates, wiping tables nonstop. At the end of the month, maybe they make a few thousand yuan. But if someone builds an automated food delivery system, they don't have to be there every day. As long as restaurants and customers use it, money keeps coming in. What's the difference? The first sells time. Time is limited, so income is limited. The second builds assets. Assets create value automatically, so income can grow infinitely. Naval himself is a living example of this principle. When Naval first graduated, he was just like everyone else, working a job and earning a salary. But soon he realized that no matter how hard he worked, he was still just trading time for money. So he started his own business. His first venture was building software services for companies. He made some money, sure, but his team still had to keep taking on projects, basically still selling their time. It wasn't until he got into angel investing that he discovered the real secret to building assets. Investing in companies that could become automatic money machines, like Twitter. Once those companies grew, the value of his equity skyrocketed. That's when wealth truly compounded. So the first key is this: completely shift your mindset. Stop thinking about how to make more money per hour, and start thinking about how to build something that makes money for you. Step 2. Build your specific knowledge, your core strength. This is where wealth begins. Naval says real expertise isn't something you get from formal training. Getting a CPA license or learning Photoshop, those are generic skills. Anyone can learn them, and they're easy to replace. True specific knowledge is something that feels like play to you, but looks like hard work to everyone else. It's the kind of skill no standardized system can produce. So how do you find your specific knowledge? Naval gives a super practical way to start. Think back to what you used to love doing as a kid, without anyone forcing you. What could you spend an entire afternoon on, just because it fascinated you? Maybe you were the kid who loved taking apart gadgets at home, breaking them down and putting them back together just for fun. That might be a clue that your talent lies in mechanical repair or product design. Or maybe you were the peacemaker in school, always helping friends settle arguments. That could point to a natural skill in communication or counseling. Naval's own specific knowledge is explaining complex ideas in simple, clear ways. He loved reading as a kid, and after reading, he loved sharing what he learned. Later, whether it was through tweets or interviews, he could break down deep investment principles into plain language that anyone could understand. That's his unique edge, something no one can copy. And remember, specific knowledge isn't innate. It's the result of long, focused immersion. Like someone who starts out making short videos just for fun, after hundreds of uploads, they begin to understand audience psychology, editing flow, and topic selection. Eventually, they become an expert in short-form content. That's how specific knowledge is formed. So don't say, "I don't have a talent." It's not that you don't, it's that you haven't spent enough time digging it out and polishing it. Step 3. Add leverage to your specific knowledge. This is the key that turns your income from linear growth to exponential growth. Naval says, without leverage, no matter how good you are, you'll never make serious money. There are 3 kinds of leverage that ordinary people can use, and we'll go through them one by one, from easiest to hardest. The first kind is code and media. They're forms of replication with almost zero cost, and they're the kind of leverage ordinary people should grab first. The essence of code is creating a self-running system through logical instructions. For example, if you write a small program or develop an app, once it's built, it can be copied infinitely. As long as people use it, you keep making money. Even while you sleep, it's still creating value. Media, on the other hand, is about influencing people through content, writing blogs, making short videos, or running a podcast. As long as the content is valuable, you'll attract an audience. Once you have enough followers, whether it's ads, product sales, or paid knowledge, all of them can make you money. Take someone who's good at cooking. Instead of working in a restaurant and trading time for money, they can make short cooking videos teaching people home recipes. When they gain followers, they can start recommending kitchenware or selling their own recipes. That's using media leverage to amplify their skill in cooking. The second kind is capital leverage, using other people's money to amplify your judgment. For example, when you buy shares of a great company, what you're really doing is investing your money in that company's ability to make money. The more the company earns, the more valuable your stock becomes. Or take startups. When you raise money from investors, you're using their capital to scale your business and then sharing the profit proportionally. That's also capital leverage. It helps you grow wealth faster. But Naval gives a very important reminder. Leverage amplifies judgment. If your judgment is wrong, the bigger the leverage, the harder the fall. It's like when people follow the crowd into a stock they don't understand. They just heard someone say it'll go up. Once they add leverage and the stock drops, they could lose everything. The third kind is labor leverage, getting other people to work for you. It's the oldest form of leverage, but also the hardest. For example, if you start a company and hire employees, they help you create value. You pay them salaries and the remaining profit is yours. But this requires management skills. You need to know how to lead people and align their efforts. Otherwise, employees may slack off or quit, and you'll end up worse off. That's why, for most people, it's better to start with code or media. The barriers are lower and the risks are smaller. Then, like we said earlier, you turn risk into your asset, take responsibility, and you'll earn the reward. Naval says society rewards those who dare to take risks under their own name. And that's easy to understand. When a company gets into trouble, the boss and the employee are in completely different positions. An employee can just quit and find another job, but the person in charge might face debts or even legal responsibility. On the flip side, when the company makes money, the boss gets dividends and equity, while employees only get fixed salaries. That's the law of risk and reward. They're proportional. Naval himself became an angel investor, meaning he takes risks under his own name. Some of the companies he invests in may fail, and the money is gone. But if he bets on something like Twitter, the return could be hundreds or even thousands of times over. When he started his own business, as a founder, he had to take responsibility to his team, his investors, and his users. If he failed, both his reputation and his wealth would suffer. But if he succeeded, his rewards would be far beyond what any employee could earn. So if you want to make serious money, you've got to have the courage to take the hits. You can't just expect safe and guaranteed profits. The world doesn't work that way. The fifth step, the ultimate path, is to own equity, not earn a salary. Naval keeps emphasizing this. Salary is linear income, but equity is exponential income. With a salary, you get paid for the day you work, and once you stop working, the income stops. With equity, you own a piece of the company. When the company doubles in value, your stake doubles too. When it grows 10 times, your equity grows 10 times. So how can ordinary people own equity? There are 3 ways. First, start your own business. Be the boss, and you naturally own company equity. Second, join an early-stage startup and fight for stock options. When the company goes public or gets acquired, those options turn into real cash. Third, buy shares of great companies. That's like buying a small piece of ownership with a small amount of money, sharing the rewards as the company grows. Naval himself achieved financial freedom by doing exactly this, through both investing and entrepreneurship, holding equity in multiple companies. At this point, you'll notice that Naval's logic of wealth is tightly connected. First, build a foundation of value through your skill. Then, use leverage to amplify that value. After that, take on risk to earn equity. And finally, own assets that generate money automatically. But there's one key amplifier behind it all: judgment. Without good judgment, you can't choose the right skill, use leverage effectively, or seize equity opportunities. Everything else becomes meaningless. In the next part, we'll dive deep into this. Judgment, the ability that's even more important than hard work. What exactly is it? And how can ordinary people develop it? After talking about the logic behind wealth, let's move to the other side of the double helix: happiness. A lot of people think happiness depends on luck, finding the right partner, making enough money, or having successful kids. But Naval completely tears that idea apart in his book. Happiness isn't a lucky accident. It's a skill you can actually train. And here's the core shift. Happiness isn't about getting what you want. It's about letting go of what you don't want. First, we've got to break one of the most stubborn myths. Why are so many successful people still unhappy? Naval has seen tons of Silicon Valley millionaires, people worth hundreds of millions, who can't sleep, live with anxiety, or even fall into depression. He found a harsh truth. Success comes from being dissatisfied with the present, while happiness comes from accepting it. And those two things are naturally at odds. It's like when someone says, "I'll be happy once I make my first million." But once they hit it, they immediately start chasing 2 million. They buy an 80 square meter apartment, then want a 120 square meter one. Desire is always running ahead, and we're always chasing behind. Even if you catch it, it only gives you a short breath before the next desire appears. Naval went through that exact trap himself. When he first achieved financial freedom, he bought luxury cars and a mansion, went to fancy parties every day, and thought, this must be happiness. But not long after, he felt completely empty. He'd wake up every morning not knowing what to do, and when he looked at his garage full of cars, they felt more like a burden. It was only then that he realized, happiness isn't about owning more, it's about needing less. It's not a state of being, it's a skill. Just like swimming or driving, if you learn the right way, anyone can practice it. The starting point of happiness is accepting the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. Naval once shared a small story. He was rushing to catch a flight and got stuck in heavy traffic. He was about to miss his plane. Normally, he would have slammed the steering wheel and cursed at the traffic. But that day, he suddenly thought, the traffic's already here. Getting angry won't help. So he rolled down the window, felt the sun, and listened to a podcast he'd been meaning to catch up on. He ended up missing his flight, but listened to an episode that really inspired him and felt surprisingly calm. That's the seed of the happiness skill. Not fighting what you can't change, but finding peace in what is. Now let's talk about 3 counterintuitive happiness exercises that Naval has personally tested, all of which you can start right away. The first one is subtracting desires. Naval says, a desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. When you don't get it, you're unhappy. When you do get it, you want more. Too many people around us are dragged around by their desires. You scroll your phone, see someone's new designer bag, and suddenly want one too. A coworker gets a new car, and you start feeling uneasy. But the truth is, 90% of what we want isn't necessary at all. Naval's practical trick is super simple. Before going to bed, spend 5 minutes listing the things you wanted today but didn't get. Then ask yourself 2 questions. First, do I really need this? Second, if I don't get it, will my life actually be worse? He once made a list of his desires, about a dozen of them, like buying the latest watch, taking photos with celebrities, or opening a trendy restaurant. After asking those 2 questions, he crossed out more than half. Eventually, he built a habit, keeping only one core desire at a time. For example, one year it was understand game theory deeply, and everything else got cut. With fewer desires, his attention sharpened, and satisfaction came easier. The second exercise, live in the moment. Don't let the past or future steal your present. Naval said something that paints the picture perfectly. Most people spend their whole lives distracted. When they eat, they think about work. When they work, they think about vacation. And when they're on vacation, they think about what to do tomorrow. They never actually live. Isn't that just like most of us? You sit down for a nice meal, and your first reaction is to take photos and post them. By the time you're done checking comments, the food's gone cold, and you never really tasted it. You play with your kid, but your mind's stuck on unfinished work. You don't even hear their laughter. So how do you practice living in the present? Naval suggests a zero-barrier exercise. Spend 10 minutes a day doing absolutely nothing. No phone, no work, no thinking. Just feel your breathing, or watch the trees and clouds outside the window. He says it's like cleaning out the junk from your brain. We carry too many regrets from the past and worries about the future, and only by pausing can we dump that garbage out. Then we start to feel calm in the moment. At first it might feel boring, but after a few days you'll notice food tastes better, walks smell fresher. Those tiny things we used to overlook, they're actually the true sources of happiness. The third practice is to stay away from status games and be your own judge. Naval says that status is a zero-sum game. Someone else has to lose for you to win. Happiness, on the other hand, is a single-player game. It's enough if you are satisfied. A lot of people's unhappiness actually comes from comparison. A classmate gets promoted faster, not happy. A friend makes more money, not happy. Even when the neighbor's kid gets better grades, still not happy. But have you ever thought about this? What you see are just their highlight moments. You don't see the struggles behind them. That classmate who got promoted faster might be out drinking with clients until midnight every day. That friend who earns more might barely see his family a few times a year. Naval's way to dissolve jealousy is surprisingly effective. Every time you envy someone, ask yourself, if I had to swap my entire life with theirs, their stress, their regrets, their problems, would I really do it? He said he's asked himself this question countless times, and 99% of the time, the answer was no. Because you only want their good parts, not the bad. But life is always sold as a package deal. Once you truly understand that, you'll stop comparing yourself to others. Instead, you'll start appreciating your own life. Because your life is something others could never have. The foundation of all these practices is self-redemption. True happiness comes from being yourself. Naval says this process takes 3 steps. The first step, quit living by other people's expectations. He says, The root of pain often lies in what I should do instead of what I want to do. For example, some people choose a major just to please their parents, or stick with a job they're not good at just to look competent in front of coworkers, or fake a glamorous life online for likes and approval. All these shoulds are like chains that strangle the real you. His advice is clear. If you do something only because others think it's good, you'll regret it sooner or later. Only when you do what you truly want can you stay happy in the long run. The second step is to take care of your body first. Naval is very practical about this. If your body isn't well, no happiness skill will work. When you have a headache, can you stay calm? When your stomach hurts, can you feel happy? He summed up 3 minimalist health tips that actually work. First, in terms of diet, eat less processed food. He says, if even bacteria don't want to eat it, neither should you. That means snacks or frozen meals that last 6 months or more. Stay away from those. Second, exercise for 30 minutes every morning. You don't need to run a marathon. Just walk fast, stretch, or do a few push-ups. Your morning sets the tone for your whole day. Third, fix your sleep. Set a bedtime alarm, sleep 8 hours, and follow your natural body clock. When you sleep well, your mood stabilizes naturally. The third step is to train your focus through meditation. Naval compares meditation to intermittent fasting for your mind. Our brains are constantly thinking. It's like a stomach that never stops eating. Eventually, it'll get sick. Meditation lets your brain go hungry for a while, gives it a break. Many people think meditation means sitting cross-legged, closing your eyes, and thinking about nothing. But that's not the only way. Naval's beginner tip is simple. Go for a walk without judging anything. When you see a homeless person, don't think, poor guy. When you see a rich person, don't think, wow, he's rich. When you hear a bird, don't think, what kind of bird is that? Just see and hear, without adding any judgment. That's the simplest form of meditation. What it trains is your ability to control your thoughts, and once you can do that, peace naturally follows. At the end, Naval talks about the meaning of life, the ultimate form of happiness. He offers 3 layered answers. First, life has no universal meaning. Each person must find their own. Someone else's answer won't work for you. Second, life has no inherent meaning. It's like riding on water or building on sand. Everything eventually fades. Third, meaning is something you create. The flower you nurture, the article you write, the person you help. All those little traces you leave behind are your meaning. And the most practical philosophy boils down to one simple truth. The only thing we truly have is this moment. Yesterday is gone. No amount of regret can change it. Tomorrow hasn't come yet. Worrying about it won't help. Only this breath, this sunlight, this company truly belongs to you. Don't waste the present by clinging to the past or fearing the future. Living fully in this moment. That's the whole secret of happiness. By now, you should see that wealth and happiness were never opposites. Wealth helps you solve survival problems, giving you the confidence to practice happiness. Happiness keeps your inner world calm, so even when you make money, you don't lose yourself. Next, we'll twist these 2 threads together and explore how to both earn wealth and keep happiness. After breaking down the foundations of both wealth and happiness, we've got to twist these 2 threads together into a real double helix. Many people spend their whole lives making the same mistake. They treat wealth and happiness like a multiple-choice question. Either they chase money like crazy, saying, I'll be happy once I'm rich, or they avoid wealth completely, thinking that talking about money is vulgar, and that true happiness only comes from a simple, detached life. But Naval proved with his own life that the 2 aren't opposites at all. They actually fuel each other. Let's start by breaking the first common misconception. Wealth is a tool for happiness, not a substitute. In the book, Naval clearly says, I make money so that I don't have to work for money again, not to buy more stuff. That line exposes the true nature of wealth. It's meant to remove your worries, not add more burdens. We all know people like this. Someone starts a business, makes a fortune, and immediately buys a luxury car and a mansion. Then, just to keep up that rich person image, they have to take on even more projects they don't actually want to do. They're constantly busy, never home. Their marriage falls apart, their kids grow distant, and somehow they end up more miserable than when they were broke. That's what happens when you mistake the tool for the goal. The whole point of making money was freedom, but they end up shackled by it instead. Naval himself fell into this trap once, but he caught himself in time. After achieving financial freedom, he didn't chase after more money. He sold off his extra houses and cars, moved to a quiet little town, and spent his days reading, meditating, and being with his family. He said, "The greatest gift wealth gave me is the right to say no. No to dinners he doesn't want to attend, no to investments he doesn't believe in, no to people he doesn't want to see." That's what wealth should really do for you. It removes the noise of compromise so you can focus on what truly makes you happy. On the flip side, happiness is a multiplier for wealth. When your mindset is right, making money actually becomes easier. Naval studied countless entrepreneurs and investors and found a clear pattern. The more desperate someone is to get rich, the more mistakes they make. But those who stay calm and centered are the ones who spot the best opportunities. Why is that? Because the core of making money is judgment, and judgment is destroyed by emotion. People who are in a rush to make money see someone profit from stocks and immediately jump in, or hear about a get-rich-quick project and rush to invest, without ever stopping to think clearly. And what happens? They get burned. But people with peace of mind play the game differently. They're not driven by greed for quick rewards. They take the time to study the essence of things. Just like Warren Buffett said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." That's basically the mindset of happiness, a calm, emotion-free state that leads to wise decisions. When Naval invested, he always emphasized mindset. Once, he spotted a company with huge potential. He studied it for over 6 months and decided to invest, but at that time, everyone else thought it was a terrible pick. The stock kept dropping. Any short-sighted investor would have panicked and sold to cut losses. But Naval didn't. He stayed calm, saw it as a chance to buy more. And later, that company skyrocketed. He made dozens of times his initial investment. He said, "The reason I stayed calm wasn't because I was smarter. It's because I didn't see short-term profits as my only goal." That's what happiness adds to wealth. It keeps your emotions steady. It helps you grab opportunities when they appear, and stay grounded when risks come your way. What's even more important is that imbalance between wealth and happiness usually ends in losing both. We've all seen it. Someone works themselves into exhaustion chasing money, ends up sick, and then spends all that hard-earned cash on hospital bills. They don't get to enjoy their wealth or their happiness. On the other hand, some people go to the other extreme. They live like monks, avoiding any chance to make money. Then, when their family needs help, they can't provide. When they want to pursue something meaningful, they can't afford to. That kind of happiness isn't peace. It's forced compromise. Naval says, the real winners in life are those who can make money and stay genuinely happy. He has a friend who runs a small, cozy cafe. Every morning he opens up, brews coffee, chats with customers, then closes in the afternoon to work out and spend time with his kids. He doesn't make a huge amount of money every month, but it's enough to support his family, and he still takes them on 2 vacations a year. That guy is the perfect example of balance between wealth and happiness. He doesn't obsess over expanding into a big chain or chasing huge profits. He simply uses his skill, making great coffee, to earn enough, while keeping the happiness of spending time with his family and enjoying life. So how do you actually achieve that balance? The key is mastering 2 kinds of balance points. The first one is your enough point for wealth. Don't chase more is better. Aim for just enough. Naval says, enough isn't a fixed number. It's a state where you're not worried about money. For example, if your monthly expenses are $5,000 and you consistently earn $10,000, that's enough. When you have kids and your living costs rise to $10,000, earning $20,000 steadily, that's still enough. The key is finding the point where you're no longer anxious about money. Beyond that, extra wealth doesn't really add to your happiness. it just drains your energy. The second point is the practical side of happiness. Don't chase some fantasy of pure and detached happiness. Go for grounded, real peace of mind. Happiness doesn't mean doing nothing and lying around all day. It means doing what you love while still handling life's realities. For instance, if you love painting, you don't have to make it your full-time job. Use your work income to buy paint, take a class, and spend an hour a day painting. That's practical happiness. If you love traveling, you don't need to quit your job to travel the world. Work hard, save your vacation time, and visit 1 or 2 dream places each year. That's also practical happiness. By now, you should fully understand Naval's double helix logic. Wealth is the foundation. It holds up the house of happiness. Happiness is the roof. It shields you from the storms that wealth might bring. Without a foundation, the house collapses. Without a roof, the house is unlivable. Only when the two are intertwined can your life truly stand tall. But understanding it isn't enough. You've got to live it. What makes Naval's philosophy so valuable is that it's actually actionable. Now let's get into the most practical part. After diving deep into this book, don't just leave it on the shelf. Do these 3 things first, and make the logic of wealth and happiness truly your own. A lot of people finish reading the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, then either put it back on the shelf as a keepsake, or copy a few quotes into a notebook and forget all about it. Naval keeps reminding us, real knowledge isn't about memorizing, it's about using it. The true value of this book doesn't live on the pages. It shows up in how your life changes after you apply it. So don't rush to close it. Instead, spend 3 hours doing these 3 things, and turn its logic into your personal action plan. The first task is about wealth. Spend 1 hour making your specialty and leverage list to find your money-making pivot point. Naval's core wealth equation is simple: specific knowledge plus leverage. Wealth. But most people stop there and never ask themselves, what exactly is my specific knowledge, and what kind of leverage fits it? This list helps you turn vague ideas into a clear direction. Write it in 3 steps. Step 1. Use the 3 questions method to dig out your true specialty. But be careful. Don't confuse a skill with a specialty. Start by writing down what you can do: copywriting, making PowerPoints, fixing computers, whatever. Then ask these 3 questions for each one. First question: when I'm doing this thing, do I feel tired or do I lose track of time? Specific knowledge means you enjoy the process. Skills just mean you can finish a task. Second question: when people ask me to do this, do they say, "You're the only one who can pull this off"? Specific knowledge is unique. Skills are replaceable. Third question: what real problem does this thing solve for others? A specialty creates value. It's not just a self-indulgent hobby. For example, someone who writes copy. If every time they write, it feels painful, and they only learned it for work, that's just a skill. But if they can write for 2 hours straight, totally absorbed, and their friends always ask for help with slogans and say, "Your writing really connects with people," that's specific knowledge. They're solving a real problem, unconvincing copy that doesn't sell. Step 2. Match your specialty with the right kind of leverage. Pick the one that's easiest to start with. According to Naval, there are 3 types of leverage: code or media, capital, and labor. For most people, start with code or media. The barriers are low, and the risks are small. Here are some common pairings to spark ideas. If your specialty is cooking, pair it with media leverage. Make short cooking videos, grow an audience, then recommend kitchen tools or sell recipes. If your specialty is clear thinking, use media leverage. Write workplace advice posts to help people struggling with presentations or structure. If you're good with parenting, start a blog or podcast about it, and later offer online consulting. If you can code, use code leverage. Build a simple tool, like a template generator, and sell it online. And if you don't know how to code or create content yet, that's fine. Start small. If you love cooking, just make 3 short videos and post them on social media. See if people watch or comment. Don't worry about monetizing right away. First, Test whether your specialty plus leverage combo works. Step 3. Mark your next concrete action. Don't stay stuck in the thinking stage. At the end of your list, clearly write down what you'll do in the next 7 days. For example, if your specialty is copywriting, write 2 pieces of workplace writing advice and post them on YouTube this week. If your specialty is fixing computers, shoot a short video on how to fix a blue screen in 3 minutes and upload it to TikTok. The more specific your actions, the easier it is to follow through. Naval says, "Wealth is built by doing, not by thinking. Even one small step forward beats a year of overthinking." All right, let's move on to the second thing, happiness. Practice the 7-day desire detox to get rid of useless anxiety. The essence of happiness is reducing desire, but quitting all desires overnight isn't realistic. This 7-day practice is a gradual process. It only takes 10 minutes a day, and it's super simple. Step 1. Make your desire list. Every day, write down everything you wanted but didn't get. Get a small notebook and every night, take 5 minutes to jot them all down. Maybe you wanted to buy a new lipstick, upgrade your phone, get a compliment from a coworker, or earn a raise. Write it all down honestly. Step 2. Subtract. Cross out everything that isn't truly necessary. Look at each item on your list and ask yourself 2 tough questions. First, if I don't get this thing, will I still be alive tomorrow? Second, a year from now, will this still matter to me? Most of the time, the answers are no and not really. For example, that new lipstick? You probably still have 3 unopened ones at home. Wanting your coworkers' praise? That's really just anxiety about not being liked. Thinking of getting a new phone? The one you have probably works fine for another 2 years. Cross all of that off. What's left are your core desires, like getting a raise. That's about paying rent and supporting your family. Those are the desires worth focusing your energy on. Step 3. Track your emotions and feel the joy of letting go. After crossing out the non-essential desires each day, write down 1 sentence about how you feel. For example, on day 1, you cross out "buy a new bag" and realize it's actually fine not to buy it. You don't have to worry about running short on money next month. On day 2, you cross out "I want my boss to praise me," and suddenly it feels lighter. Doing your job well is enough, no need to chase others' approval. After 7 days, when you look back, you'll notice that 90% of your desires were influenced by others or just impulses, not things you truly need. Once those desires fade away, anxiety naturally decreases and you make room for genuine happiness. All right, let's move on to the third thing, cognition. Read 1 hard book and practice deep thinking. You can check out the homepage of my channel. I personally love these kinds of books. Naval says that judgment is the amplifier of both wealth and happiness, and good judgment comes from reading hard books. He doesn't recommend bestsellers because most of them just repeat secondhand opinions. Instead, he suggests reading the classics of math, science, and philosophy. Those books help you build solid mental models so you can think more clearly and deeply. Step 1. Start with beginner-friendly hard books. Don't jump straight into massive, dense reads like Principles of Philosophy or Mathematical Analysis. If you're new, begin with something that's readable but still powerful. For example, to train your judgment, read Poor Charlie's Almanack. It's a collection of Charlie Munger's mental models filled with real-world wisdom. To understand the essence of happiness, try The Book of Life by J. Krishnamurti. It's a series of talks about living in the present moment. To think more clearly, check out Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, which explains how people make cognitive mistakes and how to avoid decision traps. Step 2. Use the 10-minute note-taking method. Don't just finish a book and forget it. You don't need to take notes word by word. Instead, after reading each day, spend 10 minutes writing down 2 things. First, what counterintuitive idea did this book share? For example, Poor Charlie's Almanack says the simplest logic is often the most effective. Second, can I apply this idea to my life? How exactly? For instance, when making decisions in the future, don't just chase short-term gains. Think about long-term consequences. Naval himself read for 1 hour a day, and after 7 years he said, 90% of my judgment came from these classic books. Reading isn't a chore. It's how you upgrade your brain's operating system. And the stronger your system, the easier it becomes to make money and stay happy. These 3 practices may look simple, but they perfectly align with the essence of Naval's book. Finding your specialty and adding leverage builds confidence. Reducing desires and staying calm protects your inner peace. Reading hard books and sharpening judgment strengthens your abilities. Only after doing all 3 can you say you've truly understood the Almanack of Naval Ravikant. It's not about how many quotes you can memorize. It's about turning his logic into your lifestyle. And the ultimate destination of it all, as Naval keeps reminding us, is simple. Be yourself. Next, let's talk about the ultimate goal of studying this book deeply. It's not to become another Naval, but to live as the most awake, conscious version of yourself. Now that we've come this far, we have to ask the most fundamental question. Why spend so much time studying the Almanack of Naval Ravikant so deeply? Is it to learn how to make more money, or to find some secret to instant happiness? Actually, it's neither of those. The deepest answer hidden in Naval's book is to help us live as our most awake selves, not chained by society's standards, not driven by blind desires, but knowing clearly what we want and how to get there. And Naval himself is the best example. As one of Silicon Valley's top investors, he could have easily kept playing the wealth game, fund more startups, make more money, and become the perfect image of success in everyone's eyes. But he didn't. Instead, he chose to slow down, cut off meaningless socializing, and spend his time reading, meditating, and being with family. Because he knew there are millions of templates for success, but only one life that truly belongs to you. When we read this book closely, we start to realize every piece of his wealth logic, every method for happiness, is essentially teaching us how to cut out the world's noise and finally hear our own voice. In reality, too many people live on autopilot. They choose their major because their parents said so, pick jobs based on salary, follow the crowd when judging right and wrong, and spend their whole lives acting out someone else's script. Only near the end do they realize, this isn't the life I wanted. And Naval's logic gives us a full toolkit for staying awake. His wealth formula, specific knowledge plus leverage, helps you escape the trap of compromising for money so you can confidently choose what you really want to do. His happiness formula, reduce desires and live in the present, helps you quit comparing yourself to others and find peace in your own life. And his cognitive method, read hard books and train your judgment, keeps you from drifting with the crowd so you can think for yourself. Put all these tools together, and what you get is the courage and clarity to be yourself. Naval says, when it comes to being yourself, no one can compete with you. You don't have to force yourself to become a money-making machine, nor pretend to be some perfectly calm saint. You just need to find your own craft, make enough to live freely, and protect your own happiness. That's the best kind of life. Like someone who loves gardening. They keep a tiny garden neat and full of flowers, sell enough plants to cover their living, and wake up every day surrounded by fragrance. That's their version of being awake. Or someone who loves coding. They build small tools that help others solve real problems. Don't need to make a fortune, yet feel fulfilled. That's their clarity. So the true value of this book isn't to hand you a perfect answer, but to give you the courage to write your own. After you close the book, you might not become rich overnight, and your worries won't disappear instantly. But you'll gain a new kind of clarity. You'll know where to go, what to let go of, and who you really are. And that clarity, that awareness, is the true foundation of both wealth and happiness. After all, the only person who can define your life has always been you. And finally, congratulations. You've just finished another hard book.